Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear distinguished speakers, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to our second Swiss edition of the three-country business webinars in 2021. They are organized with our Austrian and German colleagues. My name is Ariane. I'm the economic counselor of the Swiss Embassy in Turkey. And today's webinar focuses on vocational education and training out of a Swiss perspective. We have organized today's webinar together with the OSTIM Technical University of Ankara, the Swiss Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, and the Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Turkey. We Swiss, we are very passionate about our vocational education and training. First of all, it has a very long history, and it's also a very important pillar of our economy. And we will look at this topic today from 4 different angles. We are going to hear from Erik Swars, who's the head of international affairs of the Institute for Vocational Education and Training, what this is all about and how it pays off for our economy. Then we have the perspective of a host company. We have Thomas Haas with us and Sévérine Zaugg, who will tell us how it is to be a host company and what the opportunities and challenges are for them. Then we have the third perspective, which I think is very interesting and usually doesn't get a voice in such contexts. We have actually a real apprentice with us, Miss Nouran Wahba, and she will give us first-hand information on her own experiences. And last but not least, we would have had Mergim Jahiu with us today, but he's unfortunately sick today, so Erik Swars will take over his part, and he will talk about how our Swiss model can be applied to different contexts and countries, and he will explain that with the example of a case study in Bulgaria. You can expect every speaker to speak for about 10 to maximum 15 minutes, and there will be a Q&A session in the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions, please ask them, type them in the window below, even now during the sessions or afterwards, and we will ask the questions to the speakers in the end of all the sessions. This webinar will be recorded and shared on the internet afterwards. I'm very happy that we have Professor Murat Yülek with us today from the OSTIM Technical University in Ankara. This university aims to be the University of Industry. I'm sure Murat Bey will tell you more about it. And it's a great pleasure to have you here. As an opening speaker, Murat Bey, you are from education, you are an engineer and a development economist, and you have taught in various important universities in Turkey, Germany, and the US. And when we met earlier this year, we talked a lot about Switzerland, and I was impressed how much you know about our industry and our economy. I think this could fill another webinar in the future, but also the people and the culture. And so with no further ado, I would like to give you the word for your opening speech, Murat Bey.
Dankeschön, Ariane.
Bitte schön.
Es war ein sehr großes happiness for me. So it's half German, half English to have met you and Levent Bey as well from the Swiss Embassy. Switzerland I define Switzerland as a miracle economy, as we have spoke about it, because it is such a country with such industrious people that made the country stand out among all countries in Europe, in the world, because again, the people of Switzerland, they are so industrious and so productive. In my other lectures, I always listed among the top countries of miracle economies. So I am really proud to be part of this event today, because the Swiss miracle, actually Swiss economic miracle, of course, is a result of the people and a very strong system of education, in particular vocational education. So I think this event is very useful to all of us, including at the beginning myself, to learn more about the Swiss vocational training. So, dear participants, first of all, I thank again Ariane Tinner and Levent Durukan and the Swiss Embassy to have invited me to this event in the opening part. Because again, the Swiss vocational training is really an exemplary experience, best practice for all of us. Why it is important for OSTIM Technical University in particular is that OSTIM Technical University is, it aspires to be an industrial university, actually, because we have made the definition ourselves. We have, let's say, the authority to define ourselves as the industrial university because of several reasons. The first one being we are part of an industrial region. We are located physically at the heart of an industrial zone, which is among the biggest in the world. And it has a very international appeal. Even the name OSTIM is literally, it means the Middle East Industry and Trade Center. OSTIM and OSTIM Technical University lies in the middle of what we call an SME city. So we are within industrial SMEs and of course non-industrial SMEs as well, such as finance, logistics, health and everything else. So it's a very interesting ecosystem. OSTIM has just celebrated its 52nd anniversary as one of the leading industrial regions or zones within the region, Europe and Middle East. And it has a very interesting story because it was established by industrial entrepreneurs. At the time when it was established, there was no legislation for an industrial zone. Even in the world, there was no legislation for an industrial zone. So these Turkish entrepreneurs, industrial entrepreneurs, established OSTIM as a cooperative structure, a cooperative which brought together different businesses, industrial businesses. And now it has more than 60,000 blue and white collar employees and more than 6,000 businesses, 17 different sectors, 139 subsectors, 7 what we call clusters, and which have been also, these 7 clusters have been also the first clusters in the legal sense that have been established in the region, not only in Turkey, but in the region. We as OSTIM Technical University, we were founded in 2017 officially. Of course, the idea and the history goes much earlier, but official foundation was in 2017 by a law. As you know, in Turkey, any university, whether foundation or a state university, it has to be established by a law. And we aspire to be a third generation university from the beginning. And third generation university is a definition made by one of our professors, Hans Wissema. He's a Dutch professor who is a part of OSTIM Technical University now. So we are a third generation university, but at the same time, we define ourselves more precisely as a variant of third generation university. We call ourselves an industrial university. Actually, we have turned this definition into an official chapter in a book that is going to hopefully come out from a well-known British publisher within this year. The name of the book is The New Learning. And within this book, we have a Swiss professor and a Turkish professor writing a chapter about Swiss vocational training. So that's why this event for us is very meaningful, and we are really excited about it. One of our 4 faculties is the vocational school. And it is actually the biggest faculty that we have. Right now, we have 11 departments within that faculty. We call it a faculty, but it's an independent vocational school. So within this vocational school, these 11 departments cover different aspects of engineering and manufacturing sectors, together with logistics and finance and marketing, etc. So it's not only industry per se, but all the surrounding areas that in the future will be complemented by new departments covering all the ecosystem of industry. We have quite a few laboratories and production facilities, including facilities based on virtual reality and augmented reality and smart cities and all those things. But again, all this academic footprint requires good students to be educated and good researchers to be gathered under our roof. And there we would like to really enhance our relationship with the Swiss institutions, especially SFIVET, because SFIVET has a wealth of experience in this field. It's probably the best example in the world as of now of the experience collected under one roof on vocational education and training. So I'm sure Ariane and Levent Bey will help us further this relationship between Austin Technical University and SFIVET. And let me close now by thanking all the other organizers and sponsors of this event, the German Embassy, and Advantage Austria and SFIVET itself and Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Turkey, along with, of course, our very valuable friends in the Swiss Embassy here. Dankeschön und auf Wiedersehen.
Vielen Dank. It is wonderful how you speak also very well German. Thank you very much for this introduction. I want to say that really the goal of this webinar for sure is to be a door opener for collaborations between Turkish and Swiss institutions, universities, and the private sector. And it should also be interactive. The people are able to ask their questions if they can now, or also send emails. And I also think it's important to have this connection between your university and the Swiss Federal Institute of Vocational Education and Training. And today is the first step. So with no further ado, I would like to give the word to Erik Swars. He's not only the head of international affairs of the Institute, but he has also written a book on vocational and professional education and training in Switzerland in 2016. And it has been published in English and Chinese. And I could imagine after this webinar, it could be published as well in Turkish, or you could have a collaboration of books. So please enjoy the next session. And I would like to give the word to you, Erik.
All right. Thank you. I will just share the presentation. Yeah, thank you very much, Ariane. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it's really a great pleasure to be part of this webinar and to share some insights about the vocational education and training in Switzerland. But also maybe, as Professor Julek pointed out, to have a discussion on potential cooperation in future. As VET in Switzerland is based on a partnership, so among different actors, as Ariane said, we have in this part now different perspectives. So from a company, from Herzog, then the commercial apprentice of SFIVET, and then also a practical example of international collaboration in Bulgaria. But first of all, I would like to give you an overview about the main elements, about the success factors of the Swiss system in vocational education and training. So, as it was pointed out, VET has a long tradition in Switzerland. It has grown over decades and even over more than 100 years. So, just briefly, it is also important to understand the context. So, Switzerland is quite a small country. You see the number here, 8.6 million inhabitants. And it is a federal state with 26 regional authorities, so the cantons. And when it comes to the education, so general education and compulsory education, the cantons are responsible. And when it comes to vocational education and training, it's actually a shared responsibility of the Confederation and the cantons. So Switzerland is a small country, but there are 4 national languages and 3 big different cultural regions also. And therefore, you do not have one dual system there. So you have also in this small country different perspective, different facets. So maybe in Zurich, the approach is a little bit different, or the perception, as in Geneva and the French-speaking part of Switzerland. And then when it comes to economics, Professor Julek pointed out, it's a SME city. You can apply this also to Switzerland. So the backbone of the economy are really the small and medium enterprises. And you see here that 99% of all companies are SMEs. So that means below 250 employees. And we have also Herzog afterwards, which is part of this big piece of the cake. The youth unemployment rate, this 2.7%, is quite low. And there are, of course, several reasons for the economic performance, for the youth unemployment in Switzerland. But certainly one of the reasons is the vocational education and training system in Switzerland. And this is just, you can say since 10, 12 years, vocational education and training is also in the focus in an international context, and sometimes particularly also the Swiss system. And it's just an example here of the World Economic Forum from 2019 that Switzerland was on the top here. All right, so let's come to the success factors or the key strengths of the vocational education and training system. This is an overview, and then afterwards I will show you a bit more details about this. So VET is integrated in the whole education system. It's a collaboration between the government and the private sector. The permeability is very important, so there is no dead end in the education system. As the companies are very strongly involved, there is also a strong labor market orientation of the programs, and there is some cost efficiency. We will see that later, that it may also be financially beneficial sometimes for companies actually to train the young people. Some key figures. So 2/3 of the young people at the age of 15, 16 years, they choose actually the path of vocational education and training, and they can choose among about 230 different professions. So the most popular is commercial apprentice, followed by retail, and also IT specialist or health in the healthcare sector. You see here the number of the apprenticeships that are available each year actually, and in the whole it is quite well balanced. So there is a balance between the supply and the demand. So in the last years there have been even more positions, vacancies as young people searching for apprenticeships. But there is, of course, a lot of difference between the professions. And about 30% of the companies, they offer these dual apprenticeships, which is quite an important number, as the companies, they are, of course, not obliged to do so. All right, so a key feature of vocational and professional education in Switzerland is, as I mentioned, the full integration into the education system. So you see here a simplified presentation of the system as a whole. So after compulsory school, as I said, 15, 16 years, the young people, they have these two options: general education or vocational education and training. And vocational and professional education and training, which you can see here on the left side, complements the general education part of the system, which you can see here on the right side. And this both on an upper secondary level and also on the tertiary level. So the Swiss VET system offers really various training possibilities and qualification on both these levels. In Switzerland, you can say, yeah, this vocational education and training enjoys considerable prestige and has a solid reputation. Yeah, so this VET part here, so most of these programs are taken in form of apprenticeships. So 90% of all these programs are dual, so meaning in collaboration with the company. These programs last between 2 and 4 years, and they end with the journeyman's exam, and the young people, they get a diploma or a qualification, which is recognized on a national level, so in the whole country. And that allows them to enter the labor market immediately. Another important aspect of the Swiss education system is the almost complete permeability between the different education pathways. So there are no dead ends in the system. You can always have access to another education, to another training program. And when we talk here about the VET programs, so most of the young people, they choose to enter the labor market after their apprenticeship here. Yeah, so with this diploma, you have really a good qualification to get a good job in the labor market. But they also have, of course, the option for further training and education afterwards. So the usual route is to acquire a further practice-oriented qualification on a tertiary level through, you see it here on the left side, this professional education. These qualifications follow the same philosophy of duality, and they are offered in part-time education. And they prepare the young professionals for specialized or managerial tasks for the business. So they are really an essential source of highly valuable manpower for the Swiss companies. But of course, there are also another possible pathway. For example, with this federal vocational and baccalaureate, which was introduced 2004, and where more focus is on the general education level. And with this diploma, which can be done during the VT program here or afterwards, the young people, they have direct access to the bachelor programs of the universities of applied science. And with an aptitude test, there is even the chance then to access to university. And the other way around also, with a baccalaureate and then 1 year internship, then you have access to a university of applied science, where more focus is on the practical part. So you see here, there are no dead-end qualifications in the system. So, and this was just, one of the pictures of the marketing campaign of the education ministry some years ago, so that, the young people, they can start training as a hairdresser and then continue the education and become a biologist. Okay, so as I said, 90% of all the VT programs in Switzerland are dual. So what does it mean? Of course, the companies, you see it here on the right side, the companies, they have a really strong role. So the young people, after compulsory school, they have to search for an apprenticeship. So at the beginning, I have to think about, okay, what I'm interested in, what is my passion. Nouran will talk more about this. I also have 2 children. They are 17 years old. So I can tell you, at the age of 15, 16 years, it is not easy to know, okay, what is my interest, what profession I'm interested in. So this is a first challenge at the very young stage. So the applications have to be sent to the companies, then there will be interviews. And at the end, if it is successful, a contract will be concluded between the company and the apprentice. And then the apprentice also gets a small salary, as from the first day. So the apprentices, they spend 3 to 4 days per week at the company, and 1 to 2 days per week at a vocational school. So where is more about theory, about general education, but also about theory and vocational subjects. And then what is quite special, so we talk about the dual track system, but actually in Switzerland we have 3 learning locations. So there are these intercompany courses or branch courses, how we call them. These are managed by the professional associations, and their apprentices from different companies from the same sector come together and get training there. So this is to ensure that the apprentices have not only the qualification of one small company, but really they meet the qualification standards of the whole sector and of the whole profession. And this normally it's about 10 to 30 days per year. As I said, so this is really important because this is actually, it's the first article in the law on vocational education and training in Switzerland. It's about the public-private partnership. And we have these 3 partners here, which really have to collaborate. So you see here on the left side, it's the Confederation. They are responsible for the strategic management and the development. And SERI, which is the Ministry of Education, they approve the qualification standards. Then below, you have the regional authorities, so the cantons. They run the schools, vocational schools. We have about 310 in Switzerland. And they run also the VET offices and the career guidance, which is also very important for the young people. Of course, they have the parents, they have the friends to guide them a little bit, but there is also a structure from the cantons to support the young people in their choice of the profession. And then last but not least, actually, yeah, I would say the most important part, the private sector, the professional organizations. And they actually, so the companies, they actually are responsible for the training content. So they develop the curricula, they set the standards, the qualification standards. Yeah, and therefore the VET programs, normally the competencies taught there, they correspond also to the needs of the labor market. All right. So yeah, let me come to the last topic. So it's about money. So the funding of this VET system. Of course, this system costs also a lot of money. Think about more than 8 billion Swiss francs in a whole, and you see here the repartition of the costs. And you see that the biggest part, so 60%, is borne by the private sector. So yeah, especially the companies, huh? The companies who provide the apprenticeship places, who have to pay the apprentices, pay the wages for the instructors also in the companies, provide infrastructure, and so on and so on. And then you can ask the question, okay, when they have to burn these costs, so why do they offer apprenticeship to the young people? And of course, there are many reasons. And yeah, Thomas and Sévérine will also talk about this. But so one of the reason certainly is also, yeah, it's a financial matter. And I just wanted to show you the results of the latest cost-benefit study, which was conducted by SFIVET 2 years ago, actually. And there was a comparison between actually the costs that a company has in training young people and the productive output that an apprentice can deliver within the duration of the training. And yeah, you can see here in general that in average there is a net benefit of about 3,200 Swiss francs per training year and per apprentices. So generally speaking, you can say that it is beneficial for the companies to train the young people. Why? Because in many professions, the apprentices, they are productive, and yeah, they just not I don't know, fetch the sandwich for the boss or just doing photocopies. Normally they are quite rapidly integrated in the production process, and they work on real products and real services. Of course, there are also differences among the professions, and this is my last slide that I wanted to share with you. You see here, for example, the most important 3-year apprenticeship tracks. Yeah, and you see that most of the professions here, they are beneficial for the companies when they train actually these apprentices. And you see here also, for example, a carpenter, which is also quite beneficial. Yeah, and maybe, I don't know, Thomas and Sévérine, they can also mention this. I'm not sure if they agree with this. Yeah, but with actually with this result and here the profession of the carpenter, I would so close my presentation and yeah, give the word actually directly to Thomas and Sévérine. Who will present the perspective of a company. So how the apprenticeship programs looks like at Herzog. So I thank you very much for your attention till now, and yeah, just transfer to Sévérine and Thomas.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to having us today. We would like to show a few things and perspective out of our company. First, to us, we are a construction company based in Bern, the capital city of Switzerland. We were founded 1922. That's around 100 years ago. We have around 100 employees. 15 of them make a 3 to 4 year apprenticeship. We build up young people since generations, and that's probably also why we are 100 years here, because it's important for us. Later more. We have the masons, the bricklayers, the carpenters, and the joiners. Now a few things. Now a few positive and maybe also a few negative points or things it's go with the whole thing. Very plus points are build up skilled workers for the future. That's very important for us. For us, it's also very important to have basic foundation for companies to have good workers, as the apprenticeship makes a good foundation. Very important, it depends a little bit on the companies, but it's the know-how transfer of work, knowledge, and methods. That means that also the companies that can give things to the young people from the old, or the old to the young, and the young to the old. It's kind of interesting when you have young people, they give also new perspective to us older people in the company. Then provide an opportunity for the future after the mandatory school of young people. That is kind of a general thing, but for us as a company, it's important. Then after the apprenticeship, the companies know what the skilled workers can do, or what their level is when they are when they're coming out, or when they have the apprenticeship. That's very important. Even later, when somebody made the apprenticeship, you know what that person learned and in which level it was. The negative points are the two things is, as a company, it's an effort to support the young people in manpower and money. That means also for us, it's a kind of difficult time period when you're 15, 16 to 20. There's so many things going on, and it's needs a lot of support from the companies for the young people. The companies, through that, the companies invest a lot of time. That means that we have some older workers who help the young people in the apprenticeship that they can get better or learn with them. Maybe now something about myself. I made also an apprenticeship as a construction draftsman. I went then made that baccalaureate school for 1 year, and then I worked for quite a while in my job, and then I went to the University of Applied Science to go study architecture. And now, years later, or today, I'm the CEO of our family company. So it gives you can start low and go up. And I think that is also helpful for the motivation of the young people. I give the word now to Sévérine. She will talk about more specific about the carpenters.
Well, hello everyone. I'd like you to explain some points from the training for our apprentice. We do have in our carpentry, we do have 5 trainees. They learn for about 4 years, 2 semesters per year. There are 2 parts in this apprenticeship. We do have one part in school for theoretical parts and theoretical knowledges. And then we have the other part in on-the-job training for skills in carpentry. You see on the screen, there are many fields behind the semester. They built some topics, specifically topics they have or they learn in the school. Like you heard from Erik, this instructional plan is built from a professional organization. And next to the school, they have also some branch courses. They are weekly courses from 1 to 3 courses per semester. It's like a specific topic, like handling with bigger machines or something like that. They can't include in the normal school or daily school business. Well, we do have 2 parts in school self. It's a general education part. Every apprenticeship has this part or 2 parts, a general one and a professional specific one. In the general education, the trainees or the apprentice learn something about Switzerland as the country, like politics or law, rights and obligations. This is a good opportunity to give informations to the trainees for the future, for their daily works, and also for their future in the professional world after this apprenticeship. In the 8th semester, back to the second part, from the general education to the professional specific. Those are topics about the job as a carpenter, like materials, machines, working in a company, working with machines, working with other people, and something like that. in the 4th year, means in the 8th semester, they can close this apprenticeship with a final exam, like Erik told you before. This is an exam about every topic they learned about in those 4 years. There's a technically part in the company, a practical part, and a theoretical part. With this, by passing the final exam, they get a diploma, or like we say, a certificate of proficiency. And with this, they have a good basic to get in the jobs world, in the professional world. Some positive and negative points. For the apprenticeship, for the apprentice itself, there's a professional pride. So they're proud of what they're doing, and they know very much about this job, about this proficiency, and also have a lot of skills. It's, like I said before, it's a preparation for the professional world. They have a general knowledge, and we, as a project leader, we can plan with them as a normal worker. So they know a lot about the proficiency, and we are flexible in planning them in their daily work. Also, they have the opportunity of further education, like Erik told before, from hairdresser to the biologist. It's also possible to do a second apprenticeship in a shorter time. What we can do for carpenters, there are different levels you can make your diploma on, and those levels are also salary given. It's like an upper level means it's more salary for this job, because it's more, they have more skills and they have more knowledge about carpentry. Like Thomas said before, the negatives is the effort for planning and organization. There are many absences because they're 2 days a week in school and 3 days a week in our company. And like Erik also told before, it's an early decision. It's 14, 15 years old, and you have to choose what you like to do in your future. And I think with this system we have in Switzerland, it is easier to change your mind if you're not happy with your choice. Maybe something about me, I did it as well like that. I did an apprenticeship as a poly designer, and now I'm head of carpentry at Herzog. Yeah, I think we two are a good aspect, or a good, how do you say?
Example.
Yes, a good example.
How it works or how it could go, and also we as a company are a good example that those young people are very important for us for the future.
Right.
Yeah, that would be kind of our end. Thank you again, and later on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas and Sévérine, for these insights of a company. And I have to say, I had the chance, together with the delegation of Bulgaria, to visit Herzog. And of course, it was mentioned, it's never easy, or sometimes it's not easy, but you really see when you talk with apprentices there, you see really the passion in their eyes about what they are doing. All right, so let's just skip the company perspective for a moment. I go back to the federal perspective, and just very briefly show you what is SFIVET about, and then Nouran will share her experience as she's apprentice at SFIVET. So you have seen before the three partners of the Swiss VET system, and on the level of the confederation, there is also SFIVET that has a strong role there. And actually it is linked to or it's part of the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Education. And you see here on the right side, yeah, this is our boss, actually, Mr. Parmelin, who is the Education Minister, a Minister of Economic Affairs in Switzerland. But at the same time, this year, he is President of Switzerland. And he actually started as well with an apprenticeship as an agriculture. So, and then he continued with a baccalaureate, but he worked for a long time as a farmer and winemaker. Okay, so let's come back to SFIVET. SFIVET is a national institute present in all the language regions in Switzerland. And yeah, you see it here, about 226 employees, and among them 17 apprentices. Yeah, and by the way, SFIVET was founded in 1972. So actually next year we will have the 50th anniversary of SFIVET. So there are some mandates from the Swiss Confederation, and you see it here. The main mandate is really to provide training to the teachers, the vocational schools, but also for trainers and examiners. But it's mostly about pedagogical training. It's how to teach, because the participants coming to our institute, they already have all the technical expertise. It's only about the pedagogical training. Then there is a huge research department with about 40 research projects. The third thing is there's a strong collaboration with the private sector. So as I mentioned before, the professional organizations, they are responsible to develop the content, the training content. And SFIVET, they ask SFIVET to support them in this whole process. And also, yeah, a little bit also, yeah, the representation of Switzerland's VET system, national and international level. And you see it here. There are more than 40 projects that have been realized since 2014. You see it here in Eastern Europe, in Asia, in Africa, and then here in Bulgaria also. And this example I will come back later. Okay. But one of the 17 apprentices at SFIVET is Nouran. And after the company perspective, so I would like to give the word to Nouran to talk a little bit about her experience at SFIVET as an apprentice. So please, Nouran, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Erik, and also welcome from my side. I'm glad to share my experience with you, and at first I will share my presentation. So, a personal experience. My apprenticeship as a commercial clerk, and this apprenticeship is one of the others apprenticeship that lasts over 3 years. I went for 2 days a week to the vocational school, where I have German, French, economy and society, and computer science, communication and administration as compulsory subjects. Then for 3 days a week, I went to work. And in these 3 days, I think I do kind of different work, because we as apprentice in the area of commercial clerk at SFIVET, we're changing the department every half a year. And so I'm in the second year of my apprenticeship. And at the moment, I'm working at the reception desk, where I have a lot of contact with the customers by phone or via email every day. And I also receive other assignments from my practical trainer at work. She gives me works to do, and she also makes sure that I can achieve the work goals that have been set from the whole thing. Excuse me. Why did I choose exactly this apprenticeship, and how did I get it? I choose it because it's a good base education. It's a change between the school and work, and I'm a person who likes to go at work and at school too, and not even to school. So that's why. And with that apprenticeship, we can always get a good further education, or also if we want to study afterwards without having been at the gymnasia before. And how did I get it? I think in order to get an apprenticeship, we all had to apply in rating. And so me too, I first had to apply in rating. Then I received support from my mother and my former teacher for it. After that, I was invited then to a work tester season. And also that was the day where I realized again that I really want to do this apprenticeship. And then after that, I was invited again from SFIVET to an interview where they decide if they want me as an apprentice or not. And it was kind of stressful moment, because I were waiting for a call, and that kind of thing where every apprentice will go through it. What a typical week looks like for me. I usually have to go to school every Monday and Tuesdays. At Wednesday, I'm at work, but until 3 or 4 p.m. Then I go to school, voluntary school, and make courses. And it's something I do because after that I can start also my matura without having to take any entrance exams before. Then at Thursdays and Fridays, I'm at work, and also I'm learning for some exams, because when I have a lot of exams, I have to take also the time to study for it. What I like the most about my apprenticeship, I think that's the contact with the people, because we have so much contact with every person, with a kind of different person at work and also at the vocational school. And we really learn a lot of different tasks who's helping us for finished our apprenticeship. What's the challenge in my apprenticeship? I think that's really the exams, because sometimes we have up to 5 or 6 exams a week. And also we have exam grades, and we don't get it only at school, we also get it at work. And I can say that from the school point of view, French as example is a little bit harder for me. And when we have many exams, then French is the biggest challenge. Then also to put the same amount of effort at the vocational school and in the company at the same time can sometimes be a bit tough. But however, with the right organization and the learning strategy, I think everyone can handle this well. And also as an apprentice, we can go to the vocational trainer or to the practice trainer every day if we have any difficulties. And that's something that I really appreciate very much, because we know that we can ask someone if we have any difficulties. And so far I have been able to gain a lot of experience and accurate skills. And I think that's also why I can say that I made the right choice to do an apprenticeship. And yeah, I think that's it. I thank you for your listening. And so I give it back to you, Erik.
Thank you very much, Nouran, for these insights. And I know you're also very interested in the international activities. And a few weeks ago, you participated as well as when you received the ambassador of Egypt. All right, so thank you for this perspective. I will now finish with an example of international collaboration. And very briefly, okay. So as I showed to you, there are different cooperation projects where Swiss VAT has been applied, implemented abroad. But really what I would like to emphasize that each project is really different. And of course, you can't export education system. So when it's about collaboration, we talk rather about really a partnership or a transfer of elements and an adaptation to the local context. So the project in Bulgaria actually was supported, financed by the Swiss government, the Swiss Development and Cooperation Agency, SDC. The budget was about 3.5 million Swiss francs, and the objective was really to introduce in Bulgaria a dual-track vocational education system. I don't want to go in details here, but these are a bit the objectives or the areas of collaboration. And maybe the first two, so the idea was really to have a new approach in the development of curricula and especially integrate the companies into the curricula. Because in 2015, the vocational education training in Bulgaria was only school-based. So not really a strong link with the companies, with the industry. And so here the idea was really to adapt the existing curricula in Bulgaria and to integrate also the companies in these training plans. And the objective was really to have some practical implementation of these VAT programs in a number of professions. Okay, this just briefly. So this is a bit the approach which was followed by SFIVET. So yeah, actually at the end, it's the most important is the competence of the apprentice, that he or she has the relevant knowledge, the skills, attitudes, then to be able to to have really good chances on the labor market. And therefore, we followed the situation-based approach, which is really based on the real work situations. So in different workshops, with professionals in Bulgaria, actually then the curriculum has been developed, but it was not the ministry who has developed. It was really based on the workers, on the professional experience. And based on this curriculum, where the companies have been integrated, has been also a training of teachers and instructors in the companies, and also the exam at the end has been revised. And what is also important, it was really a bottom-up approach that has been followed. The idea was really to start with 1-2 professions and to develop them according to a dual track principle. And these are just the examples of the professions that has been developed. So you see here 2 or 3 per year. And these professions have been chosen by the Bulgarian partners, because there was an interest and also a need of the respective sectors here. So you see here the different professions. So, and really there was the development of the curricula in these different workshops that has been developed based on this, the training of the teachers and the instructors, and also the exam then at the end. Yeah, and at the end result, you see it here, 32 schools have been involved, but what is really impressive, that 170 companies, they have been participating in developing and applying these dual VET programs. 110 teachers have been trained, and 1,600 apprentices, students, have started their apprenticeship. Yeah, in general, we can really say that this is really a successful project with very successful outcome. Now the challenge is really to bring it to a sustainable level, because it's not a project anymore. But you see here the figures, so the project was really successful. Of course, there have been some risk and challenges. So at the beginning, of course, the political commitment was a challenge, and there have been 2-3 different ministries that have been responsible. So at the beginning, it was important to have really the one commitment there. The lack of confidence between the schools and companies. As you can imagine, the teachers, 100% of their education was at the school. And now companies took some part of this training. So the teachers, they were a little bit scared that they lose their work. And then as the reputation was low or is low, and of course there are some concerns of the young people, the parents, as I said, also the teachers. And of course it was something really new. But on the other side, there are of course also opportunities. And so the project was really successful, though there was a reform of the Bulgarian VET system inspired. So this is important, and I would like to emphasize this. Not copied, really inspired and adapted by the Swiss dual model. And at the end, the private sector development was supported, and the students, they got really the skills and competencies that the labor market needed. Yeah, so this is just very briefly some overview about this project in Bulgaria. There have been a lot of cooperation projects, also some successful, some less successful. But as I said, it's really important to partner and to see what kind of elements can be adapted then to the local context. All right. Okay, so this was it from my side. I hope you have had a good overview about the Swiss VAT system with these different perspectives. And of course, we are at your disposal for any questions. And with this, I thank you for your attention and give back to Ariane.
Thank you very much, Erik. Also, thank you to Sévérine and Thomas and Nouran. These were really useful and interesting contributions, also very personal contributions. And I have to say, it's an incredible number, 63% payoff for the companies, even though it seems to be also a bit challenging to have these young people in the company and to help them to develop their skills. I thought personally it's an important aspect that you mentioned, Sévérine, the pride. I think that makes a huge difference. If you can say, I'm a carpenter, I really know everything about this job. I'm only 16 or 17, but I'm a carpenter. And also the aspect of still going to school and the preamability that, Erik, you mentioned the preamability in the beginning, and you see this ostrich and everybody thinks, why should you become, a biologist after a training as a coiffeur? But I think in Switzerland, it's really, it's the reality. And there are really no boundaries. And even, as you mentioned, one of our federal councils, or this year the president, has started with a vocational training. And I also liked it very much, Nouran, that you told us what your life looks like. And I would say I'm so impressed. You have so many obligations in school, 6 exams per week, but you're also at work, and I'm sure doing a great job. And yeah, that's very impressive. But and also the last part about Bulgaria, I think also it's about collaboration. It's about giving our experience with the dual education that has been growing probably for a long time in Switzerland, as you heard. And then the country itself kind of finds it's the right system, and to be able to see a reform done in the VAT system, and so many people involved, over 170 companies, 1,600 apprentices. That's a huge achievement, I would say. Before I start asking the questions that came in, we have now about 10 to 15 minutes to answer them. I would like to give the word maybe again to Murat Bey, if you have anything to respond to these contributions.
I would like to just thank you. This was really for me. I thought that I knew a lot about the Swiss system, but apparently I didn't. And I learned a lot, really a good learning experience for me. I wish that maybe we could work on a joint program in Turkey, just like the one in Bulgaria, because as you know, vocational training is such a critical debate right now in our country. And we as a university is part of that process at the tertiary level, of course. So I thank you very much for all this organization effort and everything. I thank all the speakers. I wish we will be able to get, and everybody else will be able to get the presentation. And I hope we can work on a joint project later. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Murat Bey. So I will start asking the questions that came in to our speakers during the speeches, but you can still go ahead and type in more questions. There's the first question from Rudolf Kottbauer. He asks, you said vocational education has a good reputation. To whom you have a good reputation? For young people? Do the young people want to do a vocational training? To their parents or to the whole society, the Swiss society? Maybe it's a question to you, Erik, to answer.
Yes, thank you for this question. Yes, I would say, okay, in generally speaking, we can say that VET has a very good reputation in Switzerland. But of course, as I mentioned also at the beginning, there are differences between also the language regions. So in Switzerland, and yeah, I think what are the reasons for this? I think, well, of course, it's a tradition. First of all, it's not a system that is just 5 years old. It has grown over decades and even more than 100 years. And then there are the possibilities, the opportunities when you do an apprenticeship. I think Thomas Haas of Herzog is the best example. So he started with an apprenticeship. Now he's the CEO of his family company. Yeah, as I said, so also this permeability, I think it's a very, very important reason. So it's not a second best option. It's really.
We cannot hear you anymore.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know why, but I think I have finished also, Ariane. But maybe
thank you very much. That
the
was
others
a good
can
answer.
also the others can of course complete and add.
If nobody has anything to add to this this wonderful answer that probably covered everything. There is a question. I think it could be a question to Nouran. Maybe you have already answered it because I kind of heard your motivation, but there is the question, what is the motivation of students in Switzerland to choose VET? Maybe Nouran, if you want to, you can answer it.
Of course, I think the motivation is that we can change the career direction despite having completed, also despite we completed our apprenticeship. And also, like I said before, that we can go after our apprenticeship to study. And I think that's kind of the motivation that we have. So yes, and that we can earn a lot of competences and not going until to school.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I think this combination is nice, to go to school and work and also have this pre-mobility for the future. And then there is another question. Also, what is the ratio average of VT and university graduates to total students in Switzerland? I don't have this number in my head, but maybe Erik, you do.
So yeah, but you can say that around 40-45% of all the population in Switzerland, they have a tertiary education. And then I don't know the figures exactly, but I think there are also 30-40% when it comes to a tertiary level that have a diploma on professional education and training.
Thank you very much. Then there's the question, Could you give a bit more detail about triple helix model, about the triple helix model of Swiss VAT process, how the companies could be a host company, or what attracts them to be a host? This question has two parts, maybe. Herzog, somebody from Herzog can answer what attracts you to be a host company, actually.
Thank you for the question. Well, I think the most important thing is that we have, why we are attracted is that we get young people, and that's really the base or the foundation of our company in the future. We need workers or people who have good education, and that makes sense that you build up your own. They go probably to another company, but the other company builds us also up. Then you get for your, as an example, for the whole Switzerland Carpentry guild or the organization, you build up those young people, and you help each other as companies, even your competitors, because it's important then that you can do the work properly also in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. And about this triple helix program, maybe Erik again?
Yeah, but I'm not sure about this question. About triple helix model. I'm not sure what.
I was also thinking about it. I thought maybe it was about the 3 learning locations, because there you mentioned 3, but I'm also not very sure what is triple helix.
Ariane, if I may interject, triple helix is the concept of relationship between the government, private sector, and the university.
All right.
So I think this is an interesting question, because this is, in a way, in one of the slides of Erik, he was mentioning that the canton, you call it the canton or canton, the government and the private sector went hand in hand. So I think this question relates to it, and it's an interesting question.
Yeah, about this public-private partnership, actually, yeah. So this partnership also has grown during a long time. But what is also important to say that it is based on the law. So it's the first article in the VAT law that mention that the confederation, the cantons, and the professional associations, they have to collaborate when it comes to VAT. So of course, companies they are not obliged to offer apprenticeship, but when they want to offer, they have to collaborate with these other two actors. Yeah, I think so. It is, first of all, it's based on the law, on the VAT law in Switzerland, but on the other side, of course, there is also the conviction of all the partners that this collaboration or this partnership is very beneficial and a win-win-win situation for everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. We don't have a lot of time left, but I'm going to ask 2 more questions that came in. The first one, is there any central university entrance exam for VAT students in Switzerland? Or are there any restrictions to enter such a system?
Okay, I will try. No, there are not. After compulsory school, as mentioned, the young people, they write their CV, their applications, and send them to the companies. So at the beginning, there is no exam, no entry exam. So it's up to the companies actually to decide to engage the apprentices. And then at the end of the VET program, there is then, of course, an exam, and the young people, the apprentices, they get then a diploma, federal VET diploma, which is recognized nationally, so in whole Switzerland.
So I see this. The second part of the question is related to engineering. The person is asking restrictions, meaning VET students only can go to a related engineering field, or have they the chance to change it? I would say there is a chance to change the field during the VET program, but I ask you, Erik, again.
Yeah, we also have to say that about, what is it, 20% of the apprenticeships, they are interrupted, or they, how to say, they are cancelled. And then the young people, of different reasons.
Thank you very much. Now I see the first part is actually, it's from an engineering company, and they just make the comment that they would like to be happy to be involved in such a project as a partner company if it would ever be organized in Turkey. This probably depends on a lot of factors. I can imagine how these projects are being chosen by SFIVET.
Yes. So this we can also then discuss bilaterally. So this, for example, was a project financed by STC, so by the Swiss Confederation. So this is actually, I would say, it's the first challenge to find this financing, and then of course, all the partners, then relevant partners will be involved, of course.
So thank you very much. We are already at the end of our webinar. One question that came up a few times, the audience would like to have the presentations. I'm sure we are able to share them after the webinar. And I want to thank everybody, especially the speakers, and also Murad Bey for your great contributions, and for answering all these questions. It has been very interesting. But before we close the webinar, I would like to give the word to my colleague and friend Eda Hoscelin from the Swiss Chamber of Commerce for a small closing speech and a surprise for the speakers.
Thank you, Ariane. Dear speakers, dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Turkey, I would like to thank you all for joining us and participating in our webinar today. Special thanks to Rector of OSTIM Technical University, Professor Dr. Murat Yülek, the guest speakers from both Switzerland and Turkey, our event partners, Swiss Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, OSTIM Technical University in Ankara, and Swiss company Herzog. Of course, a great and a big thank you to Ms. Ariane from the Embassy of Switzerland. We appreciate your involvement and thank you for sparing the valuable time for this webinar. Before we close today's session, I would like to hand over our small gifts to our guest speakers. We donated to WWF World Wildlife Fund in your company name, and we will send you our certificates very soon after this webinar by email. We once again thanks to all of you who made it a huge success, and we look forward to your active participation in the coming sessions. Have a great and healthy day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eda. And Professor Yülek, maybe you want to say something in the end as well?
Well, this was such a nice and touching present. Thank you very much, Eda Hanım. We are really touched by this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also from my side, thank you to everybody who helped make this happen, to the Swiss Chamber of Commerce for all the technical assistance, to my colleagues at the embassy, to the technical university, OSTIM University and the Institute, all the speakers, and to the audience, to you for having stayed until the end of this webinar, and you were a very active audience. Thank you very much. I hope you will be you will join us again at our next 3-country business webinar, and I wish you a very nice evening, beginning of the summer, and stay healthy. Take care. Goodbye.